Hey folks, it's me, James. We are doing a short evening practice today. It's great if you've just finished work, if you've been sat around a lot all day and not had much chance to move. We're going to work quite slowly, but we're going to go deep. We'll work to activate certain muscle groups that have maybe been a bit sleepy or switched off for a lot of the day, and then we're going to stretch things out. So it's a practice of two halves, if you will. I would recommend having a brick, yoga brick, and a strap for this practice. Take a moment to grab those and let's get going. So we're going to start lying down on the back. So take a moment to come round and just have your brick and your strap to one side so it's within reach, and we are laying down for a moment. So just to begin with, take your feet a little bit wider than your hips, so they're a little bit kind of further apart than you might normally have them. For a moment, take your arms overhead, either rest the hands down or catch the elbows, or if that feels really uncomfortable, hands can rest on your chest. And then for a moment, could you swish your knees over to the left and then over to the right? And just a couple times, side to side. Keep your feet wide when you do this. Sometimes they like to creep in. Make sure they're wide. Just releasing through the hips and the lower back. And then as you come back to center, could you draw your right knee into your chest, give it a hug in, snuggle close, and stretch your left leg long. Circle out your right ankle a few times whilst you're here, and allowing your breath to settle into a slow, deep, rhythmic kind of breath. Let your ankle relax as you breathe deeply, and can you really draw your right knee in towards your body? As you draw your right knee in, give your left leg a little bit of a wiggle, kind of shake it out. Let it go really heavy. As your knee draws in, we're really looking to lengthen and release through the front of the left hip. And if you're familiar with the psoas muscles, those deep postural muscles that run from the heads of the thigh bones pretty much through the pelvis and into your lower back, a sense of lengthening and releasing. And then let's take this into a twist, bring the knee across your body, and take your right arm either to the side or overhead, whatever feels good to you right now. And we can really use the breath in the postures in the asana to help create more space and more release. So use your inhale to help fill up the lungs, to create space around the rib cage and the lower back. And the exhale to let things soften and relax. And then come back to center. Let's switch sides. Bring that left knee in. Right leg goes long. And circle out the left ankle this time. And if your ankles are kind of clicking, don't worry, most people's are. Mine are being remarkably quiet today. They're not usually. Maybe they're kind of camera shy, I guess. And then relax your ankle, really draw your knee in, give your right leg a little wiggle, letting it go really sleepy and heavy, the right leg, and then draw the knee in. Again, lengthening, releasing through the right side psoas muscles, and the right hip flexors. And then let's take this into a twist. Bring the leg across the body. Make sure you have enough room. And it doesn't matter if your knee comes to the floor or not. It's not to get fixated on that. Just let your left shoulder be heavy. And search for a good degree of sensation as you breathe deeply. And the breath is always the indication of how we're doing in a particular pose or a movement where we're at. Generally, we're aspiring to slow, even and steady breath. And come back to center. From here, last little thing before we get more active, bring the soles of your feet together and butterfly your hips open. Just allow the inside of the hips to release, and you might take your arms overhead again. Really use your inhale to reach the breath down deep into the lower belly, letting it expand, letting it fill as you breathe in, and letting it relax and release as you breathe out. Just a couple more times. Okay, coming back to center, I promised a little bit of activation, so here it comes. Walk your feet in, bend your knees. Take your feet about hip distance apart, toes pointing forwards. Here, grab your brick, you could use a large book if you don't have a brick, and place it between the insides of the knees, thighs just above the knees. Reach your arms out in a V shape, palms turn up. And can you really press your heels down, press your big toes down, and lift up into a low bridge, squeezing your brick. We're going to continue to hold the brick, and we're going to continue to breathe deeply. In this version of a bridge, I'm going to encourage you to tuck your tailbone under. So tuck the tailbone under, again, lengthening the tops of the hips. Your arms are really relaxed, they're doing nothing. Press down through the heels, press down through the bases of the big toes. Keep squeezing your brick in, keep tucking your tailbone under. Your glutes will be firing here, and your inner thighs are active. 2 more breaths. I find this really helpful for releasing my lower back at the end of the day. And then curling back down, pause, keep the brick between your knees. This is tricky. From here, bring your feet to float. I'd recommend bringing your brick onto the thinnest setting. Squeeze your brick between your knees and bring your big toes and heels together. Your knees are going to stay above your hips now. Take your fingers behind your neck, support the base of your skull, and squeeze your elbows in gently. From here, already send your lower back down towards the ground gently. You'll feel your abdominals come online. And then on an exhale, if I get my words out, curl up, lift the head and shoulders off the floor. Squeeze your brick, bring your elbows in and hold for 5. Calm breaths for 4. And for 3, keep sending your lower back down towards the ground. You might shake a little bit. For 2. For 1, lower the head, keep the legs lifted. We're going one more time, curl up and in, hold. Option here to start to lift your tailbone off the floor, sending your hips off the floor, your knees go straight up. Don't bring your knees in towards your face, keep your knees above your hips, but keep lifting your tailbone off the floor, really squeeze your brick, elbows in, last 2, and 1. Lower down, release your brick, stretch out. Give it a little wiggle. From here, walk your feet in, catch your knees. We're going to rock up, come all the way up, and around to the hands and knees. So as you find all fours, let's take your hands below your shoulders, knees below your hips, and give yourself a little bit of a wiggle, that kind of free movement. Just wiggling the shoulders, the hips, spine, feeling in. And then from here, walk your hands forwards a couple of inches. Pour your weight above your wrists and slowly lower down through your hips, your ribs, and your chest. Use your next inhale to find a low cobra, back of your neck long, looking down slightly. And as you exhale, move back into child's pose. Let's take that a couple more times. Inhale, round your back as you ripple forwards. Exhale, lower through, pour down. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, child's pose. Last time. Really flow ocean-like with your spine, like a wave on the shore. Riding the inhale to lift you, riding the exhale to send the hips back. And then come forwards, find your downward facing dog. So sitting bones lift. And take a moment just to walk out the feet a little bit. Getting free movement, kind of moving, wiggling, exploring. Sometimes when we search for release in the body, going with sensation, going with what feels good is a really good idea, particularly when we're trying to undo tension. Find your down dog, settle in. On an inhale, come to a plank position, push the floor away, and then exhale back to your downward dog. 2 more times to your plank, push the floor away, slide your shoulders back slightly, and come back. And last one. And come back. From here, step your right foot forwards, lower your back knee down. If you need to, grab your foot with your ankle, grab your ankle with your hand rather, bring your foot forwards, kneeling position. So in this kneeling position, take your hands out in front of you, palms face each other. For a moment, could you really lift up through the front of your hips? So rather than collapsing into your back like this, lift up through your pubic bone. Sit really tall, feel regal. Now rest your hands on that front thigh and allow your hips to move forwards and down, just as far as feels good, lowering into the front of the left hip. Your chest stays lifted, your shoulders are nice and soft, kind of sleepy shoulders. And roll them back a couple times if they feel tense though. And then from here, come back, bring your hands down. Lift your right arm up for a moment into an open twist. So really turn and expand the chest. Circle that top arm 3 times. 2 and 1. Bring your hand back down. Step back into a downward facing dog. And left foot steps forwards, back knee comes down. Again, take your arms out in front of you, lift the chest up, and start to lift up through the pubic bone. So it's like you're trying to bring the front rim of your pants, your leggings, up towards your chest. So you're lifting that upwards. And what we're searching for is more of a stretch to the top of the right hip now. Hold that for a few breaths. And then release your hands down and start to lower into the hip. And again, I'm not forcing this, I'm not trying to push my way down. I'm really just surrendering to gravity almost, allowing the hips to descend, breathing calmly, staying upright in the chest, letting the space emerge, as it were. Often the space is there, we just need to get out of the way and release the holding patterns, the tension. It makes the practice of yoga feel more like a practice of undoing rather than doing to me a lot of the time. Okay, bring your hands down, lift your left arm up into that twist and circling for 3 and 2 and 1. Hand comes down, downward facing dog. Nice and simple. Come forwards into a plank position. Lower your knees, lower all the way down. I like to wiggle my feet back a little bit further here, getting really long in the body. Slide your hands beside your upper chest. Press your pelvis down into the ground and lift your chest into a low cobra. Calm, steady breaths. From here, come onto your fingertips and then float your fingers. Sweep your arms back, reaching your fingertips towards your heels. If you'd like a deeper release in your shoulders, turn your palms down to face the floor and then start to turn your thumbs up. If you're not sure about the direction of that, bring your hands back so the thumb is facing the floor. Turn the thumb out to the sides of your mat, and then turn your thumbs up. It really starts to open the front of the chest and the front of the shoulder. From here, optionally adding in the feet, lift the feet, spread the toes. 3 more breaths. Really firing up your back. It's one of those areas that gets a little bit switched off throughout the day. And then release down, rest your head on your hands. If you're like me and you like to pretend to be a mermaid, which I do sometimes, bend your knees and swish your mermaid tail side to side. Maybe if mermaids aren't your thing, I hear they're out of fashion this year. Maybe you're a golden retriever with a big bushy tail, wiggling side to side. And then come back to center. We're taking locust one more time. Again, reach your arms back. And optionally turn the palms down and the thumbs up. Option to lift the feet and lengthen. Keep the back of your neck long. We're looking to create more space and more strength in the body. So really reach out through the fingers, out through the toes, out through the top of your head. 2 more breaths. And activating the back of the body. And then lower down, turn your head to the other side. And again, you could have a little swish. Releasing, rocking, rolling. And then from here, come back to center. Press back up to all fours. I'm going to turn to face you now. We're going to come into a kneeling position. And from this kneeling position, I'm going to come into a low squat. So coming onto my toes, and bringing my elbows to rest on my knees. If you're a little higher than this, don't worry. The knees are turning out slightly, feet a little bit closer together. For a moment, bring your palms together. Can you roll your shoulders back a couple of times, rolling back. Roll your shoulders back and down. Press your palms together, slide your shoulders down. As an option, bring your elbows to the inside of your knees. Your heels could be on the floor, they don't have to be. But squeeze your knees in. Remember that brick from earlier. Squeeze your knees in, press your elbows out, draw your shoulders down for 5. A little dynamic tension for 4. And 3. And 2. And 1. Release your fingers down. Bring your fingertips to the ground. You could grab your brick at this point and bring your hands onto your brick if you want a little bit more height and support. But I'm going to wiggle my feet wider and come into kind of a wide-legged forward fold, folding down. From here, I'm going to keep taking my feet wider still, wiggling my feet outwards. So I'm in a forward fold with wide legs. My toes are turned in ever so slightly. My knees can totally be bent, but I'm sticking my bum up, starting to find stretch through the inner thighs and the hamstrings. If you've got the space, you could bring your hands down to the floor. You might not be on the brick. And you might even allow the head to drop down, walking your fingertips back towards or in line with your feet. Keep your tailbone lifting, keep your toes spreading, and let your neck release. You might say no a few times with your head, and say yes a few times. Slowly walk your hands forwards again, either onto the brick or to the floor. Lift your chest up and forwards, really lengthen through your back. From here, bring your hands towards your hips and then fold back down again. From here, we're going to catch behind the back. So you might link your thumbs in what's sometimes called spirit eagle, or you might link your fingers. Either way, lift your hands towards the ceiling away from your lower back, and maybe start to take the arms overhead, folding, releasing the shoulders. When I used to do a lot of desk work years ago, this was one of my go-to stretches. It made me feel really spacious after a long day. Just the right amount of intensity, hopefully. Slowly release your hands, come back down towards your brick or the floor. From here, start to bend your right knee and sit down into the hip a little bit. And then going the other way, bend your left knee, and I'm mirroring you. And go to the other side. And you could be on your brick, or you could start to use your fingers. Maybe if you have a little bit more space, kind of lizard your way across the mat, lateral lunges, side to side. I like to play around here with the foot position. Sometimes I like to lift my toes and turn the foot out if I get quite low. And sometimes I like to keep my foot flat to stretch out the ankle a bit more. Let's take 2 more each side. And then coming back into center, wiggle your feet in again, bend your knees, and just catch your elbows for a moment. Take a big shake out gently through the elbows, soft knees. Then coming back down, come to a seated position now. So you could be kneeling if that's super uncomfortable, which it might be. You could come cross-legged, maybe sit up on your brick. And then for a moment, and you take the arms out to the sides and turn your fingers back, a little bit like those planes with the wingtips that go up. Turn the fingertips back, and now can you squeeze your shoulder blades together to reach your chest forwards and up. So back really working, heart lifting, super open. It's like the anti-desk position in the chest, right? Really open, heart rising, kind of Titanic moment. Oh. And then from here, come back. Take your right arm on top, give yourself a big hug. And option 1, working here, catching just around the shoulders or the sides of the rib cage. Elbows lift up. Option 2, you might bring the backs of the hands towards each other, towards eagle pose. Maybe you catch the thumb, maybe the palm, elbows up, either way. Whichever position you're in, just take another 2 breaths. Let your shoulders relax down your back, but keep the elbows lifting. And then let's release out, open the heart, open the chest. Ta-da! And we go the other side. So this time right arm on top, left arm on top rather. Yeah. Whichever one you didn't do. Elbows come up, shoulders slide down. Maybe you work here, or maybe you take eagle in the arms. At first in eagle, you'll be catching the thumb. Eventually fingers reach the palm, and the palms turn a little bit more like a shark's fin, I think, than an eagle personally, but it is eagle arms. Take another 2 breaths. And then release. Give your shoulders and fingers a little flick out. If you need to change the way you're sat, change the legs for a moment. Doing one more little thing with the shoulders here. You might use a strap for this. I'm going to turn around. So from here, take the strap in your right hand, lift the right arm overhead, and then slide your hand down towards the back of your neck. Take your left arm out, turn the thumb down. So if you were kind of hitchhiking, thumbs up, thumbs down now, which internally rotates your shoulder. So when you slide your hand to your lower back, the shoulder is more free. You could catch the strap here, or you might walk your hands towards each other holding the strap. Or if there's space, you might even catch the fingertips gently. In this position, watch out for your ribs popping forwards. Often what I'll see with students is that in order to get the hands to touch, the ribs will flare out, and they'll actually lose quite a lot of the shoulder stretch and get more of a kind of extension in the spine. Whereas here we're really going for the shoulder, so connect your lower ribs down and back slightly, supporting the front of the body and looking forwards for 2 more breaths. Begin to release your arms and switch sides. So left arm comes up, maybe you're holding the strap. And then right arm out to the side, thumbs up, and then thumbs down, so rotating the shoulder inwards, and then sliding the hand. Again, working to keep your ribs in, and the spine tall, and the head level. Just 2 more breaths here. And then take your strap to one side. So from here, we're going to come back for a moment into that kneeling position we did earlier. Bring your right foot forwards. Rest your hands on your front thigh. And option 1, you could work how we did previously. If you want to make this a little bit more intense, this time catch the back foot with your left hand. It's going to be quite full on through the front of your thigh. Draw your heel in gently, always being gentle. Never going to 100% of your limit with the stretch. It's actually quite unproductive in my opinion. A moderate amount of sensation. Breathing calmly. We wait for that intensity to subside a little bit. And then we have a choice. We have a choice to enjoy the fact that the intensity has subsided, or we decide to move in a little bit deeper, create a bit more space. Again, keep your chest lifted. Hips move forwards and down as the heel comes in if you have the foot. If you don't have the foot, don't worry. Resting the hands on the front of the thigh will be really good right now. When you're ready, release the foot if you held it. And really simple, let's just switch sides. I do like kind of flowy, choreographed flows sometimes, but also just kind of getting on with it is quite nice too. So hands rest. Maybe you hold here, maybe you catch the foot with the right hand, bring the heel in. Again, just don't worry about it if you're kind of reaching for the foot and it's not happening. Let the leg release, drop your hips forwards and down, you'll still get a lot of stretch, right? Just breathing gently, but slow, deep breaths. If you have the foot, keep the heel coming in, keep the hips moving forwards and down gently. 2 more deep breaths. And then release. For a moment, find your down dog. Just give yourself a little bit of a wiggle out. And then lower your knees again. So I'm going to come into pigeon pose and variations of pigeon. So with pigeon, what I would recommend, if your hips are feeling a little bit tighter at the moment, if you're feeling like there's a lot of stiffness there, I'm going to recommend a pose called zigzag to begin with. So we'll start on the left leg. So bring yourself into all fours first. And then can you slide your left knee behind your left wrist? Then wiggle your left foot out to the side. It doesn't matter if the shin is parallel or not. People get fixated on that. But don't worry about it right now. Bring the foot out. And then from here, can you sit over onto your left hip? So this is going to be zigzag. So sit over onto your left hip. Now bring your shin parallel to the front edge of your mat, so left shin parallel. And the back leg is bent as well. It's kind of a 90 degree position. What I'm going to do in zigzag is I'm going to take my hands pretty much around or near my shin. I'm going to lift my chest up, breathing in, and I'm going to lengthen forwards. It doesn't matter if I fold very far or not. What I want to focus on and keeping the front of my body long. So I'm going to keep reaching forwards. Maybe I bring my elbows down and release. And breathing here. So you might stay here in zigzag. If you would like to move towards pigeon, you can come back onto your hands. Bring your foot a little bit further back so the shin is no longer parallel, at least initially. And then roll back to center. and come onto the top of your right knee. I really like to use a brick in pigeon. I take my brick and I stick it beneath my left butt cheek, or beneath my left glutes. Then I'm going to inch myself back into my hip until I'm supported and my pelvis is pretty much level. At this point, I might choose to take that foot forwards a little bit more, but I'm lowering down only when I've created a lot of length in the front of my body, loads of space, and then maybe I come down towards the elbows. If the back leg is straight, it's helpful to consider rolling the thigh inwards. That means turning your back heel out towards the edge of your mat slightly, just to get that action. Again, it has this capacity to level the hips slightly. And we hold here. You could rest your forehead on your fists or on your hands. With each breath, sense how you're going through different layers of sensation, peeling back different layers of sensation in the hip. I often say, I'm quite open, that my first kind of year to 18 months of practice, pigeon had this tendency to make me quite weepy, quite emotional. Something about really surrendering into the hip in a mindful way, in a gentle way. It's released a lot of physical and emotional tension for me personally. And so if that's your experience, knowing that that's quite natural, it's quite normal. This last couple of breaths here. And then bringing yourselves back out. And come back to all fours for a moment. Sometimes helpful to come into a down dog and just kind of release, wiggle out the hip a little. And then we'll switch sides. So again, if you're working on zigzag, right knee behind the right wrist, wiggle the foot forwards, and then walk out to the side so you sit your hip down on the floor, so you actually sat on the outside part of the hip. And then you can bring that front shin parallel to the front of your mat, back leg is bent, so your legs make a zigzag shape. And you could lift the chest and breathe here and fold. Or you might roll your way onto the top of your left knee. Use a brick to support your right hip. And then folding down. Keeping the pelvis level in pigeon is quite helpful, partly because you tend to hit the part of the hip capsule, just the right amount of sensation in the right spot. If you're in zigzag, not worrying about that so much, because that front shin will be parallel, which also gives you depth of sensation, right? You still feel quite a lot. So whichever pose you're in, just allowing yourself to sink a little bit into it, almost this idea of surrendering into the sensation. And how could your breath really help you here? How could it be supportive? Slow, deep, smooth breath. Keeping us calm and nourished. And really the breath facilitating the releasing of tension, the finding of space in the body. And just another couple of breaths. And then slowly coming out. And again, maybe coming to all fours, having a wiggle, Maybe coming to down dog, just releasing your hip. And then from here, we're going to come back down to lie on the back and have your strap nearby as well again. As you lie down, bend both knees. We're going to stretch that right leg up and take the strap around the ball of the foot. I like to hold the strap in both hands in this first stretch. And what I'll often invite students to do is to reach the leg forwards, to straighten the leg out. So focus on lengthening the leg first. Don't be fixated on getting the leg high. Really lengthen the back of the leg first. And then start to lift the leg up. When you get to that point where your knee starts to bend, pause, backtrack, re-straighten the leg and breathe there. To avoid unnecessary tension creeping into the shoulders and them lifting up, roll your shoulders back and down for a moment and slide your shoulder blades down your back towards your back pockets or where they would be. So you're drawing your shoulders down, and then there's a feeling that you're working more from the big muscles in the back of your body, like the lats. Your hands are strong, but your shoulders can relax a little bit. Start to straighten your left leg here. Take the strap into your left hand, so left hand. Right hand rests on the floor next to you. And this leg is coming across the body now. So cross the leg over, keep the leg straight. Saying good evening to your IT band and the outer hip. Our grand finale, this one. Your right hip will lift off the floor, that's fine. At a certain point though, when you feel you've got a good amount of stretch and depth here, think about your foot continuing to reach down towards the floor. At the same time, your right hip now moves back and down towards the floor. Almost like you were pulling the leg from both ends, drawing the hip back, but reaching the foot forward still. Which sometimes intensifies it if that's what you want. Another couple of breaths. And then come back to center, bend your knee and switch sides as you can simply step the foot into the strap. It's embarrassing how many years it took for me to realize that. So if you thought that was kind of novel, then me too, when I first discovered it. Stretch your leg at a slightly lower angle than you might think to begin with. And then take the leg up. We're breathing here. Again, rather than having the knee bent and the leg higher up, think about taking the leg down and re-lengthening it so the back of the leg is super long. It's often a question about locking the knee out here. Generally, if your knees don't hyperextend, if they're not super mobile, super bendy, then locking the knee here, it's not contraindicated. I know the knees can lock, they're designed to a degree. If you are hypermobile, if you are super bendy, then keeping a tiny micro bend in the knee is sometimes encouraged, but again, kind of really listening to the sensation of your body for the feedback of whether it feels okay to be here for another 2 breaths. Okay, strap into your right hand, hold on tight. Take your left hand to the floor beside you. Straighten the right leg. And say hello to IT band number 2. Leg moves across the body. Your head can look in any direction you like here. Some people like to look away from the leg, pretend the stretch isn't happening. Or maybe you look up. And again, Consider the foot continuing to reach away and down to the right. But that left hip, you might almost encourage it out and then back down towards the mat slightly. It's not going to go very far. It's probably not going to move much at all. But just the feeling that you're stretching the leg from both ends, from the hip and from the foot. Okay, and coming back in, release your strap. Take everything off to one side. Just for a moment, lengthen your body. Take a big stretch out, fingertips, toes. Big breath in and out. Just taking a few moments in Shavasana, where your arms rest either side of the body. And sometimes it's felt that the palms turned up is more receptive, it's more spacious and creative, if that's what you need. The palms turned down can feel more grounding, more rooting and centering. Maybe that's what you need tonight. Just a simple question. Where does it feel authentic or good for you right now to place your hands? A smooth inhale together and breathing out together. Just allowing the body to settle. And that balance of a little bit of activation and strength, a little bit of deep stretching through the major muscle groups. So how does that feel in your body right now? Just letting things unravel, settle down, and release. You might bring your attention to your forehead. Just notice if there's anything that could soften there, if the skin could spread and release. And noticing your eyes and your eyebrows too, those small muscles around the eyes. You might invite them in your mind to soften, to spread. The eyes becoming a little quiet. And noticing the jaw. You could give it a gentle wiggle, just as a reminder that it can be free, that it too can be restful and relaxed. And really giving the shoulders and the back of the head to the ground, becoming heavy, heavy and relaxed. The arms are heavy, the spine settling gently downwards, downwards, downwards. And the pelvis and the legs, heavy and deeply relaxed. And the skin on the sole of your feet spreads and softens. Really affording yourself this time to enjoy a moment of rest, of relaxation, which you so need, and your heart longs for. Gently becoming aware of your breathing again. And inviting it to deepen slightly. And the breath deepening almost stirs up just a little bit of energy, just enough for you to wiggle the fingers and the toes again. Just enough for your arms to rise almost effortlessly overhead and stretch out. And for your 2 feet to walk in as you hug your knees close. Gently with yourself, roll to one side. And take a moment on the side. And then when you're ready, easing back up. Just coming into a comfortable sitting position as we close. So as you find your seat, just allow your shoulders to roll back and down very gently, super soft. Rest your palms turned up on the knees. Take a gentle lengthen through your spine and bowing head to heart. Join the palms at the heart now. And closing our practice here. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this video is helpful. I hope it's helped to unwork and unwind some of the kind of tensions of the day in the body. If you have any comments, leave feedback below. Let me know what I can help with. Otherwise, have a great evening, folks. May you rest well. Thank you.